My name is Vip Vipperman. I'm so glad to be back on the podcast today to get a chance to talk with an entrepreneur, Dustin Parker. Dustin, so glad to have you with us and look forward to hearing and sharing a little bit more of your story today.
Thank you, Vip. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. All right. Um, I'm here in Dallas, Texas. Are you also in Dallas, Texas today?
Well, us people from Grapevine will never say that. We say we're from Grapevine, Texas.
Yes.
But most of the DFW airport is in Grapevine for those listening.
There you go. There you go. Awesome. All right. Well, this morning, wanted to hear a little bit of the Salt story, one of your entrepreneurial endeavors, and because you're a serial entrepreneur, have built a couple different companies, and so excited to hear a little bit of the Salt story. But before we do that, wanted to just get a little bit of the backstory. Tell us a little bit about Dustin Parker, like where you grew up, how you got into business, and what made you want to start this company.
Thank you. Yeah, my children are actually fifth generation born and raised here in Grapevine. So we're very proud to be in our local community. I grew up with both parents being entrepreneurs, one by accident, my mom, and my dad started several companies himself, and some of them didn't make it, but he was always jumping into new businesses. And so I just grew up in a very entrepreneurial business owner environment. My parents were divorced, so um, grew up living with my mom. She owned the insurance agency, and which I would go on to end up buying her out. So started out with PricewaterhouseCoopers, an accountant, international tax. Didn't last long due to that entrepreneurial spirit. Came home, worked for the family business. My mom told me, "Hey, you're not going to be able to be the accountant at our insurance agency. That's what I do. So you're going to have to sell insurance." So I learned to do sales. And really built my career. Had a lot of favor from God in building my insurance career, and that's really my root system is as an insurance agent and as an insurance agency owner. And the problems we faced in our own insurance practice is really where the root systems for Saul are. So,
Okay. So it sounds like entrepreneurialism, as you said, definitely in the family. And kind of well, just to not expect to be doing sales, like most accountants or people who are planning to be accountants don't go, I want to be out in the front selling. But you made the hard transition, and it sounds like it went really well for you. Tell us about the insurance industry as a whole. Like what's gets you excited about being in that industry, and what is the problem that you guys saw that Salt is fixing?
yeah, well, that's a great question. Insurance is not very exciting. You don't hear a lot of 12-year-old kids saying when they grow up they want to be an insurance agent. But it's very technical, and it's very important. It is kind of the unseen stabilizer of the economy. If we didn't have an insurance solution, back in the 1700s, you've got Lloyd's Coffee Shop is famous for the first insurance policy written by, 13, I think, ship owners. And what would happen is every year they had fewer ship owners, right? Because a storm would take it out and those ship owners became deckhands. And so they started to realize that maybe if we all chipped in, we could not lose our ship in a storm. And really the modern version of insurance began in that concept. So what I'm really passionate about in the insurance industry is preservation, that a properly
Mm.
designed insurance program matched with a catastrophe of some sort, you end up, whole and continuing your journey. And, that doesn't happen very often, but in the life of a business, it usually happens once. And if the program's not built right, they're done. So
Mm.
that's, I think, I get really passionate about that preservation aspect, which, in the ancient times, salt was used to preserve meat. And it was
Okay,
very
there's the name.
critical. It was a very critical mineral. It also added flavor, probably too much flavor if it had been preserving meat for long. And it was so critical that it became a currency. And so the Latin word for salary is sal, which is salt. And it was a more trustworthy currency than trying to test whether a gold coin was actually gold. Biting it actually didn't necessarily solve the problem. And so, that's why we have sayings like he wasn't worth his weight in salt. So salt's an ancient preservation that turned into a currency, and we just really loved that name. It's markets very well. It looks very good on a sponsorship sign, but it also has deep meaning in preservation, which is what the insurance industry is all about. So kind of
Nice.
segueing into that and why we
Yeah.
named it such.
So what does salt do? What's the problem that you guys saw in the insurance? I mean, there's it's a multi-trillion dollar industry, the insurance industry. What's the problem that you guys
Yeah.
set out to solve?
Well, if you look around my office, you'll see various notebooks. I'm not even capable of keeping all my ideas in one notebook. I just always have one handy and jot ideas down. And, back about 2012, we were in personal lines insurance at Box, which is the brand that I've built. And I was watching our service team take information in to quote home and auto insurance. And not many people know the answer to this question, but um, there are 209 data points that need to be collected for a home and auto quote, or better said, 200 to 215, depending on your carrier. And I was watching them collect those 209 data points. They were on the phone, oftentimes writing it down on a pad or a questionnaire. It was miserable for the insured. It was miserable for our insurance agent. And I remember kind of hitting my head on the sheetrock and putting a dent in it. I was so frustrated. Even in 2012, this seemed like way archaic way to collect data. And frankly, over 95% of agencies were doing it the same way. So at that time, there were web-based applications, web-based ways to intake information. And I'm just like, why does our industry not have a beautiful web experience, for the insured to complete the data that we can then take and move on into our system. So that was when that idea came to mind. I wouldn't say I like most ideas. It was just like there's got to be a better way to solve this, right? This is horrible. And the problem for insurance agencies, Vip, is that it's about $400 of total revenue when you go through the whole process, right? So we're not talking about big ticket money that can make sense of a long, arduous application and quoting process. It really needs to be sped up and cleaner. So I really saw it as an existential problem for the independent insurance agency channel. When you talk about distribution of home and auto insurance, you have three main channels. You can have a direct like a Progressive or a Geico. You can have a captive like a State Farm, which means they are an agent, but they only represent State Farm. Or you can have an independent agent who can represent many carriers. I saw the way that we did home and auto as an existential threat for the independent agent to be in personal lines. Captives have better tech solutions and they're only rating one carrier. Directs have great tech, but the average independent agency is about 500,000 in revenue. They don't have the money to build their own tech. So if they can't rent some technology for these types of processes, they really run the risk of becoming a bit, very outdated. So
So tell me a little bit about what you guys developed.
yeah, so it's now become a category, and I'll pause here to make sure that people understand that we're a co-founded operation. So my story comes from the insurance world. My story comes from a brand called Box, where we're very vision driven. And then my co-founder, Jonathan Simmons, actually is a former worship pastor. He graduated from Hillsong University in Australia,
Oh wow.
has been led worship teams all across the globe, been part of the church planting side of things, and then actually led all of software and product development for one of the largest churches in the United States. Has had a couple software startups himself. So we kind of bring that deep insurance experience with that deep software development experience as co-founders, which isn't uncommon when you're a vertical SaaS. Actually necessary, I think. So that's the other side of the coin on founding Salt. Um, and the problem we solve, to answer your question, and what do we do? We're a data intake solution. So um, we've become a category within insurance technology called data intake, which has been nice. We don't have to spend 1,000 words to explain who we are anymore to the market because when we came out, we weren't a category. So it's like, what is this? And the problem we solve is the 45 minutes to an hour that it takes to quote a home and auto policy for an independent agent. to collect all those 210 data points and then to move those 210 data points into a rating software so that they can get multiple carrier quotes with one effort. And so those two steps, collecting the data and then rating or transferring the data into rating, typically anywhere from 35 minutes to an hour. When they use Salt, we get to under 5 minutes.
Oh
So
well.
we like to say if you run 100 home and auto quotes through the Salt platform, we're going to put 55 hours back on your team to redeploy into more value add, or if you want to go play golf, whatever you want to do with it. But
Yeah,
that
spend
is
time with
really what
family,
we do. Yeah,
serve the
that's what we do.
community. There's 100 things that they could be doing.
Right,
Nice.
right.
So it's
So
really
that's it in
time and
essence.
efficiency. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. Well, tell us about the momentum that you guys are feeling right now.
Yeah, it's exciting time right now at Salt. We have had a roller coaster experience. The other day, someone said you're a startup for 5 years. I think I was looking at joining a conference that gave a discount for startups, and that was under 5 years to me. So we just finished 4 years. So we're in our last year of being a startup, and that's been a tremendous roller coaster of highs and lows. Momentum right now is, you know, at the end of last year, coming into this year, was the first time we had very crystal clear clarity around who our ideal client profile was. I would say at the beginning, we thought it was an independent agent, but there's 40,000 of those. And there's a lot of them that are not a fit for Sol, right? And so we really began to understand in 24 who is our target customer, who is an ideal customer. And then just the ability to profile that and build who we hired for a sales director, how we're doing marketing, how we're doing onboarding, how we're doing service, and how we're developing the product are all built around these three avatars. And that's created tremendous
Nice.
focus. And we've been able to give our team exactly what we're trying to accomplish over the next 3 years from a client count, from an average revenue per customer, and exactly what these three types of customers look like. And we've called that a summit that we're trying to go on. So we're going to climb together. And it's kind of like having a mission in the sense that, like, if you think about someone you're going to climb maybe not a technical climb, but a heavy, steep climb that's going to take a week, you really care about who's on the team. It really matters how you work together as a team. You really can't quit halfway up the mountain very easily. And so we really spent a lot of time designing this climb, and we set up milestones like Breakthrough Ridge or um, Momentum Falls, and then our five, our top of Summit. So that's what we have everyone focused on as a 3-year run, and we kicked that off on April 1st. And so just to see the team rally around it, be accountable to all the metrics involved in that, and to see us gaining nice traction again, both on within that ICP, has been very exciting.
Dude, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's so important for entrepreneurs to find that ideal customer and start to hit on all cylinders. You find a channel partner that helps you get to them, and then your world
Mhm.
is completely rocked. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And I love how you guys are taking their creativity. I just got back from a trip to Colorado. Love hiking in that part of the world, especially when it's 100 degrees outside in Texas. So love hiking the mountain, seeing the waterfalls. Literally saw some amazing waterfalls on the trip, and then hitting the summit. And so you combine that, like the process that we're going to go through, along with
Mhm.
the feeling of the success as you guys move through. That's someone who's built significant companies before, bringing that to the new entrepreneurship program. I always,
Right.
it's funny. A lot of times when people think of successful entrepreneurs, they're thinking of maybe some 20-year-old that they've seen on, TV or something like that. And you're like, man, some of the most successful entrepreneurs have been building companies for 10 or 15 years already. And it's this company that they built after 15 or 20 years in the industry
Right.
that they know exactly what they want to do, what they want to solve, and who they want to solve it for. That's when you can see the real success because they know how to
Yeah.
build. You know how to
Right.
care for your employees,
Right.
and you know how to get the right people. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah, and if you
you
if you
mentioned,
jump verticals or you jump industries, it can take a little while to adapt what you've learned to that.
right,
But
to a new
I
industry.
was grabbing my backpack because I wanted to show you, like, we even have investor trail
Trail
maps,
map.
for our
Nice.
investors. We have employee trail maps. As we launched this climb, we did a big employee meetup. Everybody got a climbing backpack, the climber protein bars. They got a map. This is our map, and it's trifold. And so, yeah, just it's nice. It's, a little cheesy, but it's nice to have, vocabulary for what we're doing, metaphor, And so it's been very accretive.
Dude, at Eagle, we always say a talented team on a redemptive mission, fighting in a battle that matters. And
Yeah,
being on
it's
a
good.
journey, like on
It's good.
mission with other people, is so powerful. So I love it,
Mhm.
and especially how y'all branded it. That's awesome. Um, cool. Well, you mentioned a roller coaster. Have there been moments that are hard in the process as well? Tell me a little bit of like were there moments where you're like, man, I don't know if we're ever going to get this, off the ground, and if clients are ever going to use it, or has it been pretty much just a, as we
Yeah.
build it, they will come kind of thing?
Well, all of it's been hard. I think that
Yeah.
that is the journey of startups, but there's been harder times than others. When we first finished developing the product, it didn't connect to any of the rating softwares, and no one cared. No one was impressed with our product, and it was very discouraging. Um, we had to continue to develop those integrations, which was a lot of work. But I'd say the biggest challenge we ran into was about September of 23. We had really acquired a lot of customers quickly. We were at about 370 agencies on our platform.
Huh?
I think in August of 23 we signed up like 40 agencies in a month. It was a record.
Man.
So it seemed great, but at the same time, we had about 3 months of capital left, and we were burning $100,000 a month. Our marketing spend was very high because it was all outsourced, and I'm a
Mm,
believer in outsourcing, but it can be very
it
expensive.
can be
And
expensive.
and,
Yeah.
and our churn rate is what was so scary. We were starting to churn over 3% of our customers every month. Um, and so, and we just what we were doing wasn't going to work. And 23 was a horrible capital markets year. I think a lot of our on record saying it was the worst VC year ever in funding. And so we had to cut our burn by over 70% and somehow not try to harpoon our potential for the future, right? When you're a software business, there's really just a few categories of expenses. Like we don't even have any rent, so you just cutting people or cutting marketing, and the people you're either cutting dev or you're cutting the front side of the house, and you have to pick one. Um, and so at that point, um, you're really looking at what do I need to preserve in our roots to give us a chance down the road.
Yeah.
Um, and that we laid off all sales and all marketing team. We fired all third-party marketing. And so we
Those are
were
some hard
just
choices.
devs and a service person. And I don't typically work full time at all in any of our businesses. But I became head of sales, head of marketing, and CFO by the end of 23. And I
Wow.
am our largest investor. So I was aligned in what I was staring at. But on the flip side, we had a great product. We had passionate customers that were
Mm,
fits, and we had a whole bunch of customers that were a terrible fit,
mm.
So it was just like, okay, let's get that pond level way down because we have to.
Yeah.
And let's just stare at this thing with some time to breathe, and let's distill some truths.
Okay.
What is working? Who is our customer? What do we need to build them? We'd taken so many wrong turns, not so many. We've taken several wrong turns in the product because we were listening to the wrong customer. We were listening to the sales
Interesting.
team who didn't get a sell, and they were yapping about if we just had this. So we would build this and change anything. So then our product team got very, disenfranchised, and where they didn't believe the sales and marketing team. Like, not, no, last two times we built that, it didn't change anything, you know? So it's like, we're not making any more big wrong turns in product. We're going to go validate, we're going to ask our customer, then we're going to sit on it. We're going to wait till we hear that a lot of times, you know?
Yep.
So we're going to be much more thoughtful around our product development. That's our core. And we're going to build everything with sales and marketing organically. We're going to build it ourselves. That's a lot of work, takes a lot of time, but it's a lot less costly to operate. So what I
Yeah.
spend in marketing right now, way less than when we were smaller and we reach way more people.
Nice.
And I got a marketing guru who's just like a good, genius to just spend time with me. It was just a blessing. But he would
Yeah.
talk for an hour and I'd just scribble notes. And after I got the things he told me to do, I'd wait about a month and then meet with him again and get my next download. So,
Nice. Dude, finding the right voices to listen to. I mean,
hmm
there's so much noise these days
yeah,
in the business world.
there
This
is.
next coaching book, this next
LinkedIn will
marketing book.
explain it all to you.
Right. But finding a voice you trust who's giving you good recommendations that you can then go and apply and
Yeah.
see the results. And someone who's like encouraging you to really hear from the customer. That's awesome.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. So we had a $35,000 average burn rate for 2024.
Oh, nice.
I
That's
funded it myself because you can't go to market to investors with a decreasing client count and a high
mm,
burn rate and not a real clear answer of who your ICP is. So that's what we figured out. And we came into 25. We hired one of the top InsurTech sales leaders in the marketplace. She's
nice.
unbelievable. She lives in Columbus, Ohio, which is the capital of insurance technology and pretty much
Okay.
insurance companies. And
Mm,
she's designed our entire sales system, migrated us over to HubSpot, just super impressive. So, couldn't be happier. But it took the deep cutting and the deep work of 24 to get to the place we're in 25. So,
yeah. I think sometimes people don't realize the pain it is for an entrepreneur, like how much pain there is in building a company. There's a lot of
mhm.
hard decisions that have to be made. And yet, we celebrate the joys. As a friend of mine used to say, Vip, I was in business for 18 years. If I have one good story a year, it sounds like a lot of stories, but there could have been 364 other like stories that year that weren't so exciting. Um, but it's encouraging to hear you went through the hard steps. You built a great company, and now you guys have momentum to grow with and scale, and that's what's exceptional. So, and
Right.
it shows the experience. I mean, you're a seasoned entrepreneur. You've built companies before. You've seen the ups. You've seen the downs, and this is something that you know how to do. So now you've hired the right person to get out there and on behalf of your team. And it sounds like there's some opportunities. There's some wind in the sails for the future.
There's some wind
That's
in the
awesome.
sails. We have a long way to go, but we know what we're doing. We know what we're trying to do, and we know it's doable. So.
Nice. Well, talk to me about the future. Like, what do you see as the future in this part of the insurance space? And like in a perfect world, what happens with companies like Salt?
Yeah. Well, the industry as a whole has only about 10% of 40,000 independent agencies have moved over to a modern data intake system.
Oh
Salt
wow.
has three additional competitors. There'll be more coming into the market. But what you're going to see in the industry is migration into these modern data intake platforms. So we have a lot of um, adoption that's happening right now and on its way. So, I mean, Salt had 56 demos last month, with a
Whoa.
two-person sales team. So, there's momentum in the industry. We've kind of crossed that chasm and agencies are trying to solve this problem. So it's really time to move that 10% number, to something 30, 40, 50% of the market. And for us, we're at about 320 agencies that are on our platform right now. And our summit where we're trying to get to in 28 is 1,000,
Nice.
and that really is that'll be a top of a mountain experience for us to get there and gives us a lot of options of where we can go from there.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely a BHAG. Yeah, that's really cool. I was gonna ask you, um, but I'm blanking on that one. So let me ask you about when we if we wanted to leave the audience with a next step. What type of thing does that look like for Salt? I always talk to people when we do a podcast like this. You want people to think about something, like learn some knowledge, get some understanding. You want people to feel something, like, oh man, how important is it to preserve our families or our company's values, and like
Yeah.
what that means. If you've had a loss, like especially if you've seen the news lately, when people go through a loss, they understand how valuable it is to have preservation and someone that's cared about that. But then also something to do. So for the listener out there, is there something important for them to do? Um, a connection to be made over to the Salt team?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few ways. Obviously, if you're a consumer not in the insurance space, telling your insurance agent, hey, it would be great if you collected my data with one of these modern data intake tools like Salt.
I don't
This
really
because
want to
this
talk to you on the
it
phone for
really
2 hours.
has, and
Yeah.
40 minutes of answering questions about my trampoline and dog breeds is really not a great experience, right? So, but also, Salt grows through its channel partners. So our strategic partners are state insurance associations, other insurtech, like more legacy insurtech firms, insurance technology consulting firms. So yeah, if you are an investor in Eagle Venture, then you're probably an investor in Salt. And those are, finding strategic partners out in the marketplace is always part of my job, and cultivating those and developing those. You're right. You get a good channel partner. I don't know when we were talking earlier. You're off to the races, but they too require lots of management and relationship and follow up. So that's also we're doing a bridge round right now. Eagle Ventures invested in our bridge round. Very thankful for that. So when you invest in Eagle, you're helping. I think probably. Sophisticated investors know this, but we're all on our own journey as being investors, especially as angel investors. And I think the founder and the inexperienced angel investor, so to speak, both have this idea that you're going to raise a bunch of money up front, you're never going to have to raise again, and you're going to live happily ever after.
Right.
And that's about as common as the actual fairy tale's truth, right? Like you're really committing more to, and I wish as a founder when I started, I was like, no, we're going on a journey, and we've never been on this journey. And I'm sure it's going to be hard, and we've made up some goals, because how do you not? But we're we're going to have points on this road where the tires go out, and we're
Mm,
not near a gas station, and we're going to have to solve it. And so
yeah.
I think if you're going to be an investor in early stage, you need to be, really committed to walking that journey. And most are not, which is why, partnering with a venture capital firm like Eagle is a great way to do that because, they are. But you really have to understand that that's a journey, and everybody has responsibilities in that journey. So it's different than maybe what people think. So.
Yeah. The entrepreneurial experience is quite the adventure. Hey, remind us of that website.
Saltinsure.com, SALT, and then insure, INSURE.com. Yeah.
Awesome. And one more question. These days, everything's AI, 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 AI. That some people say we're getting to the end of the LLMs and that there's going to be a bubble there.
Mhm.
Other people are just delighted to have the progress that AI, has helped them with in their companies. Are you guys at Salt using AI in specific ways at the company? And can you describe that at all?
Yes. Um, AI is a big, AI is what's helped us stay lean. We write a lot of code using AI because our developers are experts and they're able just to see that code and make little tweaks instead of write it all from scratch. So it's probably kept us from having to hire an additional developer.
Oh, well.
It's huge in marketing. So my marketing team is lean and mean, and we're able to prompt AI, especially when we have to take our marketing language and configure it to so many different uses. Um, and so it's just sped up a lot of our jobs. As far as putting AI on the client-facing side, we're a highly regulated industry. And when I answer a large agency or a strategic partner's DDQ, their security, and I answer that I do AI, um, it's not a good answer. So we're very
Mm,
careful
where you
with,
put it.
yeah, yeah. And I would say that for some of our top strategic partners, if we had AI roam in our app, we'd be kicked out. So we have to be very thoughtful how we use AI. I would say when Salt allows AI inside of our platform, maybe for data reporting or for even how we collect data, it'll probably be through a strategic partnership. Salt, we don't try to solve everything at Salt, so we actually have several third-party integrated parties inside of our app. So you're accessing public data through Finris or Estated, you're accessing policy data through Measure One. So we envision our platform being kind of the hub for the data, and the migration of the data, but what all you can do with that data and different ways to acquire that data is where we partner, and that's probably how we'll approach AI inside the app.
Nice, man. Thanks so much for your time today, Dustin. I love hearing the stories of entrepreneurs, how they've taken the journey, how they pushed through the challenges, and how they continue to hang on and get a chance to see the successes. So, wishing you and the team at Salt the best of luck and success in the future, and just excited to be on this journey with you at the Eagle team. So, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Vet. Well, it was an honor to be here.